All right, guys. So I just wanted to give an update on the current situation in regards to the Las Vegas A's. Will they exist? I think they will. Right now, they're planning for groundbreaking in Vegas for their new ballpark in June of this year, with it potentially opening by 2028. I also want to talk a little bit about the current situation in Sacramento and how MLB really hasn't embraced Sacramento, and in turn, they are struggling to sell out a stadium with a capacity of 14,000 total seats. But I do also want to say, guys, make sure you like the video down below, and I will begin with showing the renderings that were released back in March. So this is a more detailed view of the new stadium. We got the first renderings, I want to say like mid of 2024, were the initial renderings of this newer design. If you guys remember back in 2023, it was just a terrible design that they originally had, and they switched to this one, which people call the Sydney Opera House. It has the gigantic window in left field. It is not retractable, so it is fully enclosed, and it does have the overlapping roof, which allows for natural light to come into it. This is kind of similar to a design that the Minnesota Vikings had back when they were looking at different concepts for their new stadium, to where there is cracks within the roof that will also help natural light come into the stadium. It is not a translucent roof. It is a dome, but there will be a lot of natural light. If this stadium was to be if this stadium were to be built 20 years ago, I'm 99% sure they would have went with a retractable roof, but they realized there's no point for retractable roofs. You know, something interesting about the retractable roofs, at least they're trying to open the one. I've seen a few games, at least like 5 or 6 games in Miami, where they're trying to get some use out of that, and they're having it open. I read a statistic. The Houston Astros have not opened their roof in the regular season in over 6 years. Remember, they forced the Astros to open it during one of the playoffs games? What's the point of having a retractable roof if you're not going to open it? It makes no sense. Especially in Houston, like April. I don't get why they don't open it. But the moral of the story there is the overall idea is that there's no point in having a retractable roof in Las Vegas with the heat. Yeah, maybe you'll be able to open it in April, a few games, but is it worth paying the extra 2 or 300 billion dollars to make it retractable? Probably not, and so they're not going to do it. But you can see the interior of this. These stadiums are getting smaller and smaller. That is an ugly looking roof, man. Yeah, there's just something wrong. There's something not right with baseball being played indoors. It doesn't look proper. But I mean, if you're going to put a stadium in Vegas, it's going to have to be indoors. We all knew that. But that is a very white roof, that's for sure. And you can see the upper deck in these new rendering stadiums. Like if you look at the Chicago White Sox renderings, if you look at the Rays renderings, these renderings, it doesn't even look like there's an upper deck to the stadium, just because the capacity is so low. And they're saying the capacity of this stadium's around 30,000, but potentially expandable to 33K. And there's another shot directly from behind home plate. It does look like it gets a lot of natural light coming into the stadium. As for the design, it's just so limited in the seating. It's hard to really get a vibe on the ballpark. Another thing, you look at the center field area. I really wish teams would start doing something better rather than just an annoying just wall in center field. It just feels like you could do something a little bit better than that. Obviously, it has to be a batter's eye, so it has to be the same color. But it just feels like it's a brand new stadium. You could do something a little bit better out there. Maybe do like a patch of grass or something. I always thought that was a more presentable option. But if it isn't a completely indoor stadium, maybe they don't want to do that. They also have kind of the weird. It doesn't even look like, at least from this angle, like the scoreboard is the right angle. Is the scoreboard, I guess, not connected to the roof? It's hard to tell exactly. I'm guessing that's a screen in front of the roof area, and then maybe it's suspended. That's what I would guess. You've got an area out in right center field. I would imagine that is some type of bar area, hangout area, similar to what the Marlins have with the Clevelander. Or maybe that's not the bullpens. The bullpens would be out in left center. The bullpens are out in left center, and then there is seating out in left field and also in right field seating as well. So there is that. So those are just the updated, more in-depth photos, more detailed photos, because the first set of renderings we got were really bad, and then these were released earlier, like 5 or 6 months ago. You can see the exterior of the stadium, kind of a silver chrome design Reminds me a little bit of AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, home of the Cowboys. Just the design of it in terms of like the color. And it's interesting because you've got that, and then you've got this rendering, which shows it kind of depicts the stadium a lot less chromy, just more overall white. And so, yeah, I will say, looking at the stadium from the exterior, you certainly would not think it's an MLB stadium. And however much you want to put into the importance of the exterior of it, it is a unique design. There's no question about that. And so this is a stadium they want to break ground on within the next, I'd say, month and a half. And I did see a recent article that says the A's remain on track for June groundbreaking for their Las Vegas stadium. The article came out right around opening day. It was April 10th. The article talks about the A's clearing a significant hurdle when the Clark County Commission approved land use permits. The A's team president announced that they are on track for a June groundbreaking for the stadium that is expected to cost around $1.75 billion, and they are expected to open it in 2028. So that is the goal. If they do break ground on it, they will be playing in Sacramento for 3 years, not 4 years. I know there's been some talks about maybe there's some hangups in terms of who's going to pay for the total stadium, the $1.75 billion, but apparently this is something that will be paid and it will be happening. But apparently, at least according to this article, they are on track. You really never know with the A's. There's been there were 30 delays in Oakland. There's been several delays here. The first renderings that got released were really subpar. Who knows? Who really knows until they actually break ground on this ballpark in Las Vegas? I don't know how the situation will work with them being in Vegas. I would imagine it's going to be a lot of fair weather fans. You could argue maybe against that when you look at the Golden Knights and how they've been able to carve out their own little fan base in Las Vegas. And it is a growing metro area surrounding Vegas and some suburban areas. But I don't know. It just feels more like a tourist type thing. Every sport is going to Las Vegas. The NFL recently went, the NHL, and then, of course, the NBA most assuredly will be going to Vegas within the coming years, along with Seattle. So, and then the other thing I wanted to mention was their current situation in Sacramento. Right now, they're averaging around 10,000 fans per game. They have a total capacity of 14K, but that is with standing room. They've got that right field area that's similar to spring training, to where it's just like a lawn, and so all of that's considered standing room. Just the seats, I believe, is 11K in terms of capacity, so they're not even selling out the seats. And I think they made a huge problem in not branding the A's as Sacramento's team. I understand it's likely only going to be 3 years, maybe 4 at the most, but the team has no city for 3 years. They're just called the Athletics. Their abbreviation is ATH, and why can't they just go by the Sacramento A's? It's 3 years. I could understand if it was a 1 year period where they were there as the stadium gets finished, but we're talking about groundbreaking right now. So they're in Sacramento for 3 years. I just don't know why they weren't embracing Sacramento and they weren't called the Sacramento A's. Again, I could understand if it was 1 year, maybe 2, but 3 years they're going to be in Sacramento and they're just going to be called the Athletics, like a homeless team with no actual name in front of them. I don't know. To me, it just feels like that was botched a little bit in terms of how that was done. Whether or not that would really change the fan support, it'll be interesting because Sacramento is a brutal climate, especially once you get into July and August. And they're going to have a lot of night games. Pretty much all of their games are going to be at night except for the Sunday games. But it's brutal. And it's really hot and muggy. So we'll have to see how they do in terms of that with the heat once we get into the summer. And the Rays are going to deal with something similar, but they're going to be dealing with the thunderstorms being outdoors in the Tampa area. And they're also hovering right around 10,000 in terms of attendance, although their stadium's a little bit smaller in terms of total capacity. But either way, that's just the update on the athletics situation. Just wanted to show the renderings. I know they came out a while ago, but I never did a video on it. So those are the updated renderings. You get a better look at some of the outfield seating, some of the exterior design of the stadium with a few blueprints as well thrown in. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.